All righty, rock and roll. Study hall. So who wants to see colorful cauliflower, or Chef Lee will say cauliflower? Let's check it
Cauliflower.
out. You haven't seen it, and you know it's not everywhere, but it's pretty darn cool when you do see it. There's a lot of awesome stuff that's going on in the produce world, and even better, I saw this one beautiful version of cauliflower that's similar to broccoli rabe. It has these really long, tender stalks that in cauliflower. I'll see if I can get some photos of that too. But let me just bring this up, and so you can get some visuals. And I want to show you some cool visuals for plate up ideas as well. But that's the beautiful bounty of this world, right? This earth, these vibrant colors. As you can see, so this one is not the Romesco version. This is standard. You've got, you know, purple, yellow, standard white, and green. Now, here, if you can see this one that looks like spiral with little horns coming out, that's that Romesco version. That's a slightly different, very similar, but as you can tell, very different florets that are going on in there. Yeah, and then I did want to show you all this for plate up ideas. I did also want to mention, and Chef Lee, I'm sure you've seen this as well, huge improvement lately in plate ups. Everybody's really thinking about, hey, how can I step this up? How can I change this? How can I enhance this? What plate am I going to use? This is really cool. I want to just show you some cauliflower steaks because this is one of my favorite things of showing how to do this. And it'll reinstate the importance of presentation and those cuts. All right, so here we go. This is what we're looking at, right? So this is a great example here. This is served up with some chimichurri, really kind of playing on that steak idea, but you can see that beautiful color and crust that's developed. That's what we want to see. To be honest, if I was critiquing, right, these cauliflower steaks, and I see this looks gorgeous. I've got that crunch, I've got that color. Now here, on the other hand, you're starting to get there. Right, we're just starting to get a little bit of that beautiful Maillard reaction, but a lot of it is lacking, right? As you can see, compared to, you know, this is oven roasted, but we're still seeing more color development. This one's got a Cajun roasted. So once you start getting this basic, right, then you can start playing. There was this beautiful, here's another one that looks, this one is a grilled cauliflower, all right? Here's another beautiful presentation on a salad, all right? There's one other one, again, really just beautiful. As you can see, you've got that oil. You can imagine this being that gremolata. We've got that Maillard reaction. That's going to give you that texture and color and taste that we're looking for. Obviously, this is a little funky. You're going to need something really big holding up that size. But this is plated on labna, which is a thick sour cream-like product, yogurt, cross between sour cream and yogurt product from the Middle East. So you can really start to have some fun with the flavor profiles once you've executed this. If you start to find, hey, you know what, I really am into this cauliflower steak. It's a great way to get some extra veg in. It's crunchy. You could season it up with some fish sauce, make it Asian style. You could lace it up with some heat, go Cajun. You know, anything that you really want to put on, because cauliflower takes what you're giving it, because it's so neutral and mild. And it's going to take on a lot of the flavors that you give it. Anything coming else in, Chef, in that chat?
Yeah,
like a lot.
so
Yeah.
Some questions about availability of those different colors right now, and I really just think it depends on your area and the market demand. I can't find it here in Oregon, but you know, to check. And if you don't see it in your grocery or your local farmer stand, ask them if if it's going to be available or if they can get it for you. Can we do a quadrille on the steaks? Chef, what do you think about that?
A quadrille.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, where you're cutting it in fours? No, we want a pure steak because you're not going to actually cut that thoroughly because of the wedge form. You're not going to get that internal cooking, and you want to get as much surface on your flat side of your steaks, just like you're searing off a steak. That's what we're really trying to mimic. Thinking about substitutions, right? This is also a great way to look at how can I introduce a really meaty, hearty vegetarian dish into a menu, right? Throw that cauliflower steak on there, which could also not only serve as a main course, but could be served as a side for the table to share as well. So you start thinking about how to play on that. You'll find that you get a better finished product because also all of those florets on the rough side won't get contact with the pan, so you'll lose some of that texture. So go with the steak, you'll have good success.
All right. Do we have to use the gremolata, or can we make a chimichurri?
Please make the gremolata. If you want to make a chimichurri as well, you can, but the point is making a gremolata to understand that flavor profile and see how that's utilized.
Jamie, I'm not quite sure I understand your question. Would you top in on the puree? Can you clarify that for me in the chat? There's a question about colored cauliflower being GMO.
As far as I researched previously, they are not GMO. Adding beets for the color of the puree. If you want to do one version with puree with color, go for it. But we do want to make sure that we're seeing the recipes as is for executing that. People have fried cauliflower steak. I personally haven't. I'm gonna fry chicken. If I'm gonna fry it, you guys know my love for fried chicken. But people do 3-stage bread that and fry it. But we really want you all executing the recipe as stated to keep developing those techniques. That's how we, the reason why we have recipes is so that we can evaluate you based on the recipe provided.
Are you talking about laying the steak on top of the puree, Jamie? You can totally do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can find some photos of cauliflower 3 ways on a plate. Chef, if you want to add anything while I'm looking this up.
Yeah, Whitley, go for it. Check it out. There's a huge other trend of making like buffalo cauliflower wings, or a lot of people are doing that. General Tso's cauliflower, sweet and sour cauliflower, and essentially you're just taking cauliflower, breading that, battering, deep frying, and then tossing in a sauce that would be similar to a sauce that you might find for your typical fried chicken morsels. So that's what the beauty of the cauliflower is, that like Chef Lee was talking about, cauliflower power. Making that as a pizza base, right? It's great alternative for when you're looking for, you want that pizza or chicken wing, but you're trying to stay away from meat, or increase more vegetables into your diet, or offer vegan or vegetarian options for your customer base. This is what the trends are going in, right? That's what we're leaning towards.
It was suggested in the chat that QFC and New Season Market might have the colored cauliflower. I'm not familiar with those. Is it kind of like a Whole Foods? Sort of. Okay. What's the other one? Sprouts might have it if you have Sprouts in your area. Oh, okay. Those are in Oregon. Publix might have it. Okay, and Tyra says that Harris Teeter had the orange one in Virginia. So you might want to try a smaller specialty store like, what's the one I'm thinking of? don't know, Whole Foods has a 365 store, again, Sprouts, something like that. Your local farmer's market might have it. Trader Joe's. Oh, okay, so I did find some photos here that I'll show you. Here's one in particular that's really cool. Can y'all see this one here in the middle? So it's got the puree on the plate, and then, you know, just imagine this being a cauliflower steak instead of roasted cauliflower on there. But that was obviously made with one of those orange cauliflowers. Here's another beautiful example of steaks on top of a puree. It looks really pretty. I think it looks like they did a caper sauce on here, kind of like a piccata. So yeah, think about, again, you know, think about the height on your plate, the way you're going to position these things on the plate. And I don't know if any of you have started sketching your plates. I know some of my students are. Think about if you were going to draw this on a plate, what it would look like. Where do you want each one of those things to land on the plate? What are you going to do to give it to some dimension, some added color? I mean, we're talking about a, you know, for the most part, we're going to be using white cauliflower here. So your plate could potentially be all white, and that's, you know, that's boring. So think about how to add some color to that, some visual appeal. Let's see. What can be used instead of anchovy because of the salt if you're on low salt diet? Capers.
Also full of salt.
They're
You're going to want to just use that anchovy
rinse.
and not eat a lot of it, would be my suggestion.
I always rinse my capers off so that they lose a lot of that brine. Yes, you can use multiple color cauliflower in the gratin. That's totally fine. How do you serve this as a balanced meal? Isn't cauliflower a lot of carbs? It's actually not. I mean, it's a cruciferous vegetable, so it does have some carbs in it. But if you wanted to add something to it, what's that, Catherine?
Sorry, Chef, I was just answering the same thing. Yeah, go for it.
Oh, yeah. So if you wanted to, let's say you wanted to increase the protein on the plate, you know, you can make a Mornay sauce for your gratin. That's going to add some protein with the added cheese.
I personally would think about adding some grains. You know, I would think about making, if you wanted to go for a vegetarian dish, making a beautiful, like, if you're going for the wheat, let's say we're talking using that cauliflower steak as your main centerpiece, right? Making a beautiful whole grain salad with wheat berries, right? Or barley, some nuts, right? Some toasted almonds, some dried fruits, some herbs, some acid. And you could really, you know, heavy herbaceous level. You could use that as your grain substitute, your grain carbohydrate, and then you're throwing in your grilled steak on top. So you're getting a lot of that. You're getting those grains to capture the extra sauce, and you're getting more of a full meal as opposed to just a vegetable.
I love the idea of adding the nuts. There's a place that I used to go in Decatur that had roasted cauliflower, and it was topped with this amazing, like, Marcona almond, chopped and mixed with some herbs, and it was really delicious. Does that help, Morgan? Yeah, okay.
Bradley, I see your hand is up. Is that a new one, old one?
Smoked cauliflower steaks, Mark? Is that what you're asking about?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. I was having trouble being unmuted.
Okay.
So for the puree, would it be okay to use like a stick blender? Because my main blender is broken for some reason. think someone dropped it on the floor.
A stick
But I
blender
have
will get you pretty close to that.
yeah, I was gonna say if it needs to get smoother, I can pass it through a sieve, so that's fine.
Yeah,
And
I
I
would do
just
that. Use your stick blender and then pass it.
yeah. I also wanted to. We were talking about meat earlier, and I'm not going to throw anybody out on blast, but I worked at a barbecue restaurant at one time, and they did something really weird. They would cut the brisket and cut the fat cap off, and just throw it in the trash, and then they would slice the brisket really thin with the slicer. Although some places do like chopped brisket. But I just was astonished by the amount of waste. They would just throw all this good fat away. And it just blew my mind. But I don't know. It's just something that they never, they didn't really have a background. The family that started the business weren't from the culinary background. So they just kind of did whatever they did just because that's just what they've always done. But I just thought I'd share that. I just thought that was something interesting. I was just looking at all that good fat that they were just throwing away. But
yeah, nobody needs to throw all that good fat away. I agree, Bradley. I mean, talk about working on that weight, but it's probably already been incorporated into their menu pricing, and they didn't feel like they either had the time, the need, or the desire to work on waste reduction. But as we know, an animal's life has been taken, right? We shouldn't just be throwing that out. We need to utilize. We need to, I want to jump into one thing. We're talking about, fat makes great chopped beef, fat adds flavor. Do you all know, I'm sure in some classes you all have heard about the Michelin guide, Le Guide Michelin, right? Well, 2021 just came out and it got some interesting reviews in the sense that 2021 or 2020, let's be honest, who the heck was going out to eat, right? So let's just first have a blanket statement of, was there a proper assessment done to all of these restaurants? Maybe the Michelin Guide 2020 should have been put on hold. There wasn't any way to evaluate this. Most restaurants were closed down by end of March, right? So then we're looking at 3 months. Most of them have been shut this whole entire time. If anything, they did some half service out front on stairs. So your service is going to be up to par, because the Guide Michelin is not just based on your food, but service, atmosphere, environment, et cetera, and service, right? Lots of things can happen when you're eating out on a city sidewalk, on a city street, right? That's not going to create the Michelin star service that we're looking at. So some people have been writing saying, this wasn't really actually fair. But on that same note, I'm playing this in because thinking about trends, thinking about utilization, 11 Madison Park, which has been on the Michelin Guide for years to come, still on there again, even though they've been closed for 15 months, right? Whatever, they're coming back, and you know what they're opening up with? An all vegan menu. All right, so if we want to talk about trends and think about trends, thinking about utilization, right? Smoking your vegetables is a great way to impart flavor and bring new depths of flavor to vegan and vegetarian plates. Sous videing, poaching in olive oil. How are we changing up, taking, this one ingredient? Like we said, we're going to be taking cauliflower. Maybe you're going to get some leaves on your cauliflower. Maybe you want to fry those to add a little garnish. Maybe you want to chiffonade those leaves up to make a little salad to put on one of your garnish. It's all about utilization and creating as many textures as you can with one product that's coming out of the earth, right? Start expanding, start thinking about it. Like Chef Lee was saying, that throwing those nuts to add with Marcona almonds, which are usually salted and in oil, right? They have a really beautiful flavor profile. You can add a lot of texture. Think about that dukkha that we made back in week 1. Can you start playing with that? We're talking about different sauces. Vegan and vegetarianism is not going out of trend. We're also looking at a growing population, what we've been talking about. I don't know if any of you caught that, sustainability. How are we going to feed our population? Cows are going to be really special, all right, because of the cost. In 20 years, we're going to see a completely different landscape in the restaurant industry with what the meats we're eating. Singapore recently started allowing for lab made meat to be sold to humans, right? Taking cells, taking those proteins, developing that in a petri dish, and now selling it, right? Very, very different. So start using this. I would say, you know, we've had that vegetarian week. This week isn't obviously a vegan or vegetarian because we're going to be utilizing anchovies in that gremolata. But it's also about making that cross between not just thinking, oh, well, if a dish is vegan or vegetarian, then that's all it is. And it doesn't appeal to meat eaters or pescatarians. That's not how we should be looking at this. We need to be looking at this with an open mind and thinking, how can we start playing with this? How can we start enhancing the role of vegetables as a focus in restaurants and making those shine? And I'm just going to pull up the Michelin guide really quickly just to show you guys in case you're not familiar. Chef Lee, did you have anything else that you wanted to I saw you laughing when I started talking about the Michelin guide.
Well, I just sent an article out to my students about what Michelin star chefs eat for comfort food.
Oh, okay.
And then we've been talking about Michelin stars in menu design and management too. So it's just funny for it to come up again.
Perfect. Here we go.
While you're pulling that up, Elise, I see you have your hand up.
Hi, chefs.
Hi.
I just wanted to share something that I learned on the America's Test Kitchen channel the other day. They happen to be making etouffee. And instead of doing the brown roux, like standing over it, like the weeknight version of it would be they baked the flour in the oven and then like tempered it and then threw it in. And I thought it was genius. So if anybody wants to take that and run with it, I thought it was pretty cool.
Thanks, Elise. I've never used that method before, but I know people who do. Have any of you tried that approach?
I mean, there's also people that make roux in a microwave. So there's lots of ways to, and I'm just saying, right? I mean, I have never, to make chocolate roux, right? I've never done either one of those. I'm an old school type of person. So I haven't tried that. I do think that you can get some nice toasting notes in when you bake flour. But I think that and I would have to try it and do a side-by-side comparison, but, and watch their whole process, because when you think about the fat particles, excuse me, the flour particles being coated in fat as they're browning, is that going to have a finish? I mean, let's talk about this. Do we think that there's going to be a different flavor profile or finished flavor profile with toasting it without fat or cooking it in fat, right? What do we think? What do we think? When we sear a product, when we roast a product without fat versus with fat, do we get any different flavor profile differences? Do we get different texture differences? Yeah, right? So I would say somebody who doesn't live in a hot area, who wants to turn their oven on right now, and then this next week, give it a go, give us some feedback, because I want to hear it from you guys, because this oven is not going on anytime soon in this house right now.
I just have to say, Elise said in the chat that she threw her microwave again last year. I'm with you. I don't own one. I can't remember the last time I owned one. I hate them.
Agreed. I'm going to just, sorry, what, chef?
She said she likes a challenge, so.
Bring it on, Elise. I want to see it. I just wanted to pull up the Michelin guide page really quickly. As you can see, you've got the stars announced, right? So they somehow were able to announce 7 new one-store restaurants, including 4 in Norway, even though these restaurants were not open for the whole year necessarily. I think that what this is bringing the topic to the table is what validity does it hold? Who's analyzing this? How many chefs have crumbled under the pressure of trying to, once they lose a star, they've unfortunately taken their lives. So there's a lot of pressure in the kitchen to be the best, to be a perfectionist. I think not everybody here on the screen can beat themselves up when a dish doesn't turn out right? You get frustrated. So if you think about that immense pressure that the Michelin is putting on some of these chefs and the people who work there, you know, it's just something to think about, I think, and to think about what is attainable, you know, what can be reached, what can't, in a healthy setting. But you'll see we've got a huge, some more new additions. You know, Nordic cuisine is going gangbusters, pretty much spearheaded by Noma from back in the day. Fantastic chef. But then this is the counter article that I want to show, which is also on Michelin Guide. And 37.3% of just opened in this week, in that week, in response to 9.5. So I don't know, guys. You tell me what's going on. Chef, what do you think about all this?
Don't get me started. Really. I mean, I watch some of these shows about chefs who achieve this sort of level. And I admire them. I admire their dedication, their tenacity, all of those things, their knowledge. But what else do they do with their lives? You know, is there a balance? Are they burned out all the time? Are they, I don't know, I watched one where there was a chef who nearly destroyed his life because when he wasn't working, he had to drink to like take the edge off, like to really wind down. And that had some huge implications. So I say perfect is boring. I've said that for a long time. I think you can do your best. I think you can lean into your growth edges, but I don't know. I'm not really into that sort of I don't know, that I can't find the right word for it. Obsessive behavior.
Fair enough. Yeah. You know. So it's all interesting, right? And that's why I think that this industry is so unique, because it can run from, you know, 3 Michelin star restaurants that a small percentage of the actual world can even afford to eat at, right?
Oh, that's something else I was looking at. The most expensive restaurants in the United States. And there are, I don't know, I think the list had 30 restaurants in it, and the low end per person was $143. And it went up to like $750 per person for one meal. And that's great if you can afford to, you know, experience that. But I think, I don't know, it's a very small percentage of chefs who achieve 3 Michelin stars, and people can afford to pay that for a meal.
Or even, I will make the last counterpoint with, I'm right with you on that, Chef Lee. How many cooks? What are we making? I know what I started off making in the kitchen. It's $8.25, right? An hour with no insurance and working for free 3 hours a day, right? There would be no way in hell I could ever afford that. So isn't that interesting? You know?
In 1996 to 98, I made $24,000 a year as a sous chef.
Yeah, that's about right.
In Atlanta.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And you think about now, obviously some of those, you know, chefs running those places are making a lot more money, but are the cooks in those establishments making great money, or are they told that this is an experience and that they should be grateful for this opportunity? Which, yes, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to see products you've never seen. However, do we think that there's some inequality there? So things to think about, guys. The restaurant industry will constantly provoke you, right? And get you thinking. All right. Think about your establishment, your employees, your products. Yeah, $320. It's like what a server makes. They're lucky these days. All right. Class. Any questions? Final comments? Chef, Lee, anything?
Go forth and make great cauliflower.
Yeah. All right, class. As always, wonderful hanging out with you. Thanks for all of your contributions. Yeah, reach out with any questions. All right. Take care. Happy cooking
See you
and
next.
happier eating. Sorry, chef.
See you next week.
Bye.